Hello and welcome to thothtober day 1. We have technically day 2 since it's the second, but day 1 since it's the first time we're reading about the cards. We did the aces. Who's we? Me. I did the aces today. We went through the aces and read through. We have I have the Ace of Swords on top because that's what we're going to talk about. Spoiler. But I have to say that the apparently I can't speak while I flip the cards, but the cards that stuck out most to me were the Ace of Swords, the Ace of Discs, and the Ace of Cups. That's too many because it's 3 out of the 4. But I don't know, I just think I don't know why. Maybe the Ace of Wands just didn't feel it didn't feel like, not that there was nothing that I didn't, obviously there wasn't nothing that I learned. Is that right? But it was more so just like the impression that it left on me. And I felt like I had a personal connection to the Ace of Cups, the Ace of Swords, and the Ace of Discs. So they felt like a lot more relevant to where I was, like where I am today, and sort of the things that are going on in my brain and my life and my heart and all my happenings. So I wanted to specifically talk about, well, first I want to mention that because we're not fully going to talk about it, but I thought it might be, something that comes up later in the week. The Ace of Cups. This card and the way that the art is depicted with this beam, which I never fully noticed the beam and how it's goes all the way through, reminds me of a piece of art I made about a childhood friend who passed away a few years ago. And so that's something that I might want to work with this weekend when I get creative. We shall see. But it was something that meant a lot to me when I was reading it. But the Ace of Swords is our card of the day, our special card who has really, really stuck out. I want to share some of my thoughts on, like, some notes that I took about the Ace of Swords. Sorry for the paper rustling. Yes. So the thing that stuck out was that it's a symbol of creative energy, which is brought into being through intellectual clarity. And I think as an artist and a thinker, I struggle a lot with this, like, line between intellectual and creative pursuits and how they bleed into each other, of course, because I want to express my feelings through an art form. I want to express my ideas as a writer, and so I really felt struck by that idea. I mean, it's always been there, but just the way that it was written, it says that which is created in clarity will carry this quality visibly and pass it on. And it talks about the unconscious moon comes into light with the sun. So the unconscious moon comes into light the sun. And so I felt like that made a lot of sense to me for creative energy that's brought into being through intellectual clarity. So thinking about, what areas do I not have intellectual clarity, and which affects my creative energy being used to its full capacity and sort of being manifested in the world, my creativity being manifested through this intellectual clarity. And the question that I wanted to do a quick little reading on, which is what supports and what hinders your clarity. Let me just open up the book real quick. Actually, my battery's about to die, so let me take care of that. Okay, back. So what I also found interesting was that the Ace of Swords entry is the shortest of all of the entries, so that's really an interesting take on clarity. I've always associated clarity with succinctness. I saw a quote recently, and I can't remember from where. Hopefully, if I can remember or find it, I'll put it on the screen. But it says that, like, clarity can often be mistaken for truth, because clarity is an essential ingredient for truth. It so often gets confused for truth. And that's something that I've been, like, mulling over in the back of my mind. So just wanted to share that with you. But yeah, the question is, what supports, what hinders your clarity? And I just wanted to do a quick reading on that. What I also, before I do that though, I wanted to show I decided to take a look at the cards in the Outgrow Yourself and see what the oracle messages were for the aces. And so, you know what? I'll do it in the order like this. Okay. Yeah, so we can do the Ace of Wands. What does it say? Welcome everything. The Ace of Cups, does it say now is the time, I believe? Yes, now is the time. And the Ace of Swords says, why do you ask what you already know? Okay. And the Ace of Discs. I guess my printer had to reset. You're already there, enjoy. I like that. That's definitely something that I want to work with, but I think that's more of like a long-term thing as opposed to like kind of, I mean, it's sort of like a seasonal thing of where in my life, but like an overarching season of my life and not necessarily like a micro thing. I feel like the Ace of Swords, why do you ask what you already know? Maybe that's part of a question, you know? Why do I? Why do I ask what I already know? Why would I do something like that? That's a very strange thing to do, no? So I was going to do it with the Sun and Moon Tarot. I was going to do this reading with the Sun and Moon Tarot in a tin, but I'm kind of wanting to, and I felt bad about that. I was like, you know, you really should start with the OG Thoth. It's day one. I mean, come on. But I was going to do the Sun and Moon, but now that I'm sitting here, I'm like, I think I have to pull out my borderless. Yeah, I think I have to pull out. No. I don't know. We'll be back after these messages. I'll figure that out. Tarot folks, if there's one thing we love, it's the Fool, you know? We just love that Fool energy. Okay. So I've decided, and I'm going to use the OG Thoth. I'm going to use the large. So I've given it a couple riffle shuffles. And so the question is going to be what supports and what hinders my clarity? No. What do I want to ask? Let me think. Let me see. I think the question of what hinders my clarity is the same question of why do I ask what I already know? And I think I could get into some of that of like, why do I ask what I already know? I feel like that's like not a hard thing to, it's not a hard thing to figure out, right? Because I look into where do most of my doubts come from, and I can trace, you know, most of those back to a few particular origins. But when I think creatively and not like in a sort of life or intellectual, I don't know, let's just get into the tarot. I honestly, I don't want to think too much. Maybe that's inappropriate for the Ace of Swords. Why do you ask what you already know? Am I asking what I already know right now? Okay, I'm having a crisis. What supports and what hinders my clarity? Let's just go there, because at this point, what hinders my clarity? I was going to say it's ADHD, but it's my Seven of Cups brain. That's what hinders my clarity. It's my Seven of Cups brain. It's my debauch. Anyway, what supports and what hinders my clarity? Thank you, Thoth. Answer this for me. I would like to know. What supports? That's okay. So structure. I would say structure. I was just reading about strife, which, as I said in the intro video, I have thoughts on strife, which I will get into at some point. Don't hold me to it, but I will. And yeah, so I'm thinking about Saturn and Leo, which is the, you know, situation here, the Decan. And so I think limitation supports my clarity to really like condense. That's so interesting. Limitation, restriction, like when I was in school, one thing that we talked about when it comes to creativity is that we need limits and boundaries around that, and that fosters a sense of creativity if you have these limits of like, okay, you can only use, if you have two markers, I mean, or if you have two colors, but no, let's say markers, you have two markers and maybe they're simply two different sizes, or they're simply two different colors. That is a limitation that can foster a wealth of creative ideas. But if you have a sort of like a room full of markers, endless, then like that's not good for the brain, like really. So a little bit of limitation, a little bit of struggle around what's in front of you can be really support your sense of clarity, creatively speaking. Huh. So the question with that is then, so how is that applied? But first, let's get into what hinders my clarity. Okay. I have Dominion. This is fun. This is fun to do a reading when I don't know the thoth that well. You know, I kind of know a little. So Dominion. This is Mars in Aries, correct? Yeah, is this not the first decan of the year? Let's see. I am doing the decan walk, so I should know that, right? Let's see. Dominion, Two of Wands. That's easy. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Let's just see what it says. Okay. Trying to control the situation is pretty much, trying to. It's so interesting, though, that, like, this is what we're looking at as far as what supports and what hinders. Two things that you would think hinder. Trying to control the situation, trying to control the outcome is really what I think of when it comes to creativity and intellectual, and in my, sort of what, trying to control the process, trying to control the results, trying to control, if I have these two markers, then what would hinder me from being clear is just sort of fixating on the fact that I have two markers and trying to control the situation and say, no, I'm not okay with two markers. I'm going to go out and get more. And in some situations, that's a good thing. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. But when it comes to intellectual clarity that supports my creative energy, absolutely trying to control and dominate the situation and decide what's going. I'm so intrigued by these. So definitely we'll be thinking about this more. I love how it says the unconscious energies are becoming accessible to the conscious. The energies released in this process are now available to be fully used. This is so intriguing. Okay, so the affirmation is, I trust my clear perceptions. I trust my clear perceptions. And maybe an affirmation for me is I release control. I release control for my clarity. Let me think. Okay, so maybe an affirmation could be, I release the need to control my creative environment and allow the limitations to be as they are. It's like the suggestion says, the truth which you speak has neither past nor future. It is, and that is all it needs to be. So I release the need to control my creative environment, and I allow the limitations to simply be. Yeah, thank you so much for being here for this moment while I do my thothtober and I play around with the thoth. I hope this was fun to watch. Let me know what your interpretations might be for me. I think it's all for fun. So I definitely won't be doing readings every day, but I just wanted to share this first one. I felt like that would be really fun. I will see you in the next one.